I have tried to keep anemones as pets for the last decade. Here's my first one from 2015. It died. I tried again a few years later. It also died. I thought creating a huge clownfish harem tank would work. It did not. And then 1 year ago, I set up my very first HelloReef Clownfish and Anemone tank, and against all odds, it failed again. But then I realized something so simple, so profound, that it changed my life forever. My mission today is simple: reveal the secret to anemone success. I will accomplish this in 3 steps. Step 1, pinpoint the reason why each of my previous attempts failed, and write it down somewhere so I don't forget. Step 2, review footage of my tank from the previous year and identify the top 5 things I did right, and write them down next to my previous list for an easy side-by-side comparison. And step 3, use my rather lackluster powers of cognition to stare intently at both lists, which will of course be written down next to each other for an easy side-by-side comparison, to reveal the secret as to why, after nearly 10 years of failure, I have finally succeeded. This is what success looks like. And now back to my mission of revealing the secret to anemone success, pinpointing the reasons why each of my previous attempts failed. Anemone attempt number 1, year 2015 of the Common Era, Seattle, Washington, my first ever tank. Premium lights, premium wave maker, and a premium lack of knowledge. At its pinnacle, this tank was gorgeous. Huge coral colonies and a small bubble tip anemone. Then the plumbing snapped, the temperature took a nosedive, and anemone number 1 was gone. Reason for failure number 1, a sudden drop in temperature. Anemone attempt number 2, year 2017 of the Common Era, same tank, new anemone. So rich in color, long tentacles, and found a great home. Then the algae started. My coral started suffering, and the anemone started to shrink and lose its luster. My phosphate levels were undetectable, but I just figured the test kit was wrong, so I added more and more GFO. One by one, each of my corals died. Hair algae thrived, and my beautiful and lustrous bubble tip anemone slowly faded away. I didn't know the answer then, but I sure as heck know the answer now. Reason for failure number 2, not enough phosphates in the water. Anemone attempt number 3, year 2019 of the Common Era. After giving up on my battle with hair algae, I sold my tank, quit my job, moved to California, started a new tank, and I was killing it. I was so proud of myself. The anemone split, and then it split again, and then those split again until I had 12 anemones. I was telling my success to a friend of mine, and he said, "Matthew, you know anemones can split when they're really happy or when they're super stressed, and yours look super stressed." What? Not my anemones. They all died. Reason for failure number 3? I don't know. It was pretty depressing. Anemone attempt number 4, year 2019 of the Common Era, a tank so big my daughter could actually swim in it. I was telling my tale of anemone woes to another friend of mine, and he had a theory. "Matthew, it's not you, it's the anemone. You're doing everything right. You're basically perfect in everything you do." Okay, that might not be verbatim what he said, but to prove his point, he gave me a gigantic bubble-tipped anemone that was years old from another successful aquarium. Reason for failure number 4, me. Anemone attempt number 5, year 2020 of the Common Era. After horribly failing in my previous 4 attempts, I knew how to fix the problem. Give me 12 expensive, high-end designer clownfish and a tank full of anemones. That's right, I decided to build a clownfish harem tank. I wanted it to look like this, but it actually looked like this. Reason for failure number 5. I was disappointed with the tank, so I broke it down to make way for something new. Anemone attempt number 6, year 2022 of the Common Era, and I had a genius idea. I should make a video and teach others how to set up their own beginner clownfish tank. It was the only logical conclusion for a man with so much experience, shall we say. This video turned out to be somewhat wildly popular, and I got this shot. Still to this day, the best video of a clownfish and anemone I have ever taken. Was I finally successful with anemones this time around? Reason for failure number 6. Toxins in the water. So 2023 rolls around and I am tasked with creating the educational content for our brand new HelloReef Clownfish Anemone Kit. Fingers crossed this time. Please work this time. Anemone attempt number 7, year 2023 of the Common Era. 8 years of straight anemone failure. Surely this time, with 6 previous attempts, watching hundreds of hours of YouTube videos, ICP water tests, and diagnosing each failure, surely this time my proactive plan would work. It had to. And son of and I was only fake swearing. This is a family-friendly channel. Frick and frack and fudge and filth and flarn and filth and son of a Gunderson and tootin' nannies and farts. Reason for failure number 7. The anemones were too small, wild caught, and possibly already sick. 8 years, 7 failures. I was embarrassed, to be honest, but I decided to try one more time, taking everything I learned, and goodness gracious, if I didn't succeed this time, I had no right to make educational videos for all of you. With step 1 of our 3-part plan to reveal the secret to anemone success complete, we move on to step 2. Reviewing my HelloReef footage from all of 2024, identifying the top 5 things I did right, and of course writing them down next to the previous list for an easy side-to-side comparison. Number 1, my HelloReef tank came with some good gear. The return pump filtered the water decently, and the wave maker added a little oomph of flow, but I upgraded the return pump to a slightly more powerful and silent version, and I swapped in a stronger wave maker. The first key thing I did right in 2024, flow upgrades. The new pumps created a lot more flow, which the anemones just loved. Number 2, I tested the water religiously during 2024 once each week. Salinity to make sure the saltiness level remained stable, alkalinity for my invert growth, and nitrate and phosphate for both algae growth and anemone health. Some weeks I would notice a slight salinity change and discover a problem with my saltwater mixing station, and others the alkalinity would dip down into the 6s, meaning I needed to add a little bit more kalkwasser to my auto top-off reservoir. The second key thing I did right in the 2024 HelloReef tank reboot was to weekly water test the key parameters and quickly correct any imbalances. Number 3, too many snails and not enough algae means the snails will die. Put sea urchins in too early and there won't be enough film algae to satiate their hunger. If you get wild caught, really small anemones, their chance of survival in a home aquaria are slim. I added 10 snails, 10 hermit crabs, 2 sea urchins, 3 shrimp, and 8 medium-sized tank-raised bubble-tip anemones from Worldwide Coral. So the third key thing I did right in the 2024 HelloReef tank reboot was I chose my pets wisely. Number 4, an anemone expert told me to do 2 things. First, install a UV sterilizer, and second, change out the activated carbon every week. If there were any unwanted organisms in the tank, the sterilizer would stop them cold. And the carbon would not only keep the tank smelling fresh and crystal clear, it would adsorb any toxins emitted by stressed nems. And changing the carbon out every week meant I didn't have to worry about its efficacy. It was always fresh, so always active. The fourth key thing I did right in the 2024 HelloReef tank reboot was to proactively install a UV sterilizer and change out the carbon weekly. Number 5, every week without fail, I did a 5-gallon water change, but not all water changes are created equal. First, I made sure the salt was pre-mixed and preheated perfectly to match the tank temperature water. Then I target fed the anemones a mixture of mysis, shrimp, and calanus. Next, I algae scraped the glass and let the filter salt collect all the extra food and algae. Then I gently cleaned 1/4 of the sand bed. After refilling the tank, I added a capful of Microbacter 7 and several drops of coral aminos. I replaced the filter sock, changed the carbon and GFO, and rinsed the large black sponge in the dirty tank water. And lastly, I would make a fresh batch of Kalkwasser-laden auto top-off water, which both kept my calcium and alkalinity levels where I wanted, but kept the pH higher, which my anemones loved. So the fifth key thing I did right in the 2024 reboot of my HelloReef tank was to master the art of the water change. During step 1, we pinpointed the reason why each of my previous anemone tests failed and wrote them down right here. During step 2, we reviewed footage from 2024, identified the top 5 things I did right, and wrote them down right here. We have finally reached step 3 in today's mission of revealing the secret to anemone success. Me using my rather lackluster powers of cognition to stare intently at both lists, which are written down next to each other for an easy side-by-side comparison, and to figure out the secret as to why, after nearly 10 years of failure, I have finally succeeded and created this. After careful analysis, I can now reveal the secret to anemone success. The one thing I had been missing for years, the one thing I finally got right in attempt number 8. Stability. By keeping everything the same nitrate and phosphate levels, the same weekly water change schedule, the same dosing, the same feeding, by keeping everything stable, I have found success. You may be thinking, Matthew, as far as a gigantic revelation as to the secret of anemone success, this is a bit of a letdown. For me, it was a revelation. 20 years ago, I was a student at Seattle University at the lowest point in my life. My friend told me 20 years later that she didn't even know what I was like happy, that I cried way more than I smiled. We were in the university district, walked into a local fish store, and there before us was a saltwater aquarium with a gigantic bubble tip anemone that the owner said had been there for 30 years. 30 years! Things were unstable in my life. I commuted 2 hours to work each day to a job I hated, but the money I needed to support the family. I was getting an advanced degree in a field I didn't even like, but I didn't have any other better ideas. But all that time, I kept thinking of that anemone. The anemone that was over 30 years old. The anemone that, if treated well and given the utmost stability, could technically live forever. There was something hopeful in that. Something that propelled me to marry the love of my life, to change careers, to move out of the rain, and to try, albeit unsuccessfully for 9 years, to build a tank where an anemone could thrive. So yeah, stability being the key secret to anemone success may seem a bit underwhelming, but to me, it was a big deal. Thanks for sticking around to the end. YouTube thinks you're probably gonna like this video, and if you've ever wanted to set up your first saltwater aquarium but were scared or didn't know where to start, go to HelloReef.com or click on the link below to check out our HelloReef Clownfish and Anemone Kit. And as always, be well and happy reefing, everybody.